Do you ever hear people talking about their side hustles and think, why not me? Well, what's stopping you? We worked with HubSpot to create a database of 100 side hustle ideas that you can start now. Everything from design and real estate to public speaking and wellness. There's something in there for everyone. Plus, we cover the skills you need and the investment you'll probably have to make to get started. Ready to break out of your 9 to 5? Go to HubSpot.com/THDS to download for free.
Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, December 19th. I'm Mark Dent, here with Juliet, Bennett, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. So instead of good morning, I should have probably just said top of the morning and maybe even tried some really bad Irish accent. That's because this episode is all about the Irish, specifically Guinness. The more than 250-year-old beer maker is seeing its headiest days yet, with sales soaring so much in the US and Great Britain due to popularity with Gen Zers that it's been hard for pub owners to keep up. So we're going to get to all that in a bit, but first let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. Starting off, yesterday there was another Fed meeting and there was another interest rate cut. For the third time since September, the Fed slashed the federal funds effective rate by 1/4 point. The move comes after inflation has generally moderated this year, but has also kind of been hanging around. During the last couple months, the year-over-year inflation rate has stuck to about 2.4% to 2.7%. So given that this inflation continues to sort of be there, the Fed suggested it's likely to keep interest rates steady in the early part of next year. Moving on, DoorDash has taken flight in Dallas. Alphabet-owned Wing is bringing its drone deliveries to DoorDash customers in Dallas-Fort Worth, slinging orders from 50 merchants at 2 malls through the app. The drones, which deliver to customers in as little as 15 minutes, can fly up to 65 miles per hour and reach a cruising altitude of around 150 feet. That means you're going to be able to see them from the ground pretty easily. And I actually happen to live on the ground in Dallas, so I guess I need to be looking out at the sky.
Yeah, you haven't seen any yet?
I haven't seen any yet. And weirdly, though, Dallas has kind of become the capital for all of these different drone contraptions.
I've noticed that, yes.
Yeah. Like Wing, I think, is with Walgreens. There's going to be a Walmart delivery drone program.
Yeah, it's interesting where the test zones are. I have a friend who's in Phoenix right now visiting his mother, and he was like, there's Waymos everywhere. And I was like, oh yeah, they did start testing in Phoenix, and now everywhere there are these Waymo autonomous cars. So I wonder if you will just be seeing drones everywhere you go soon. Yeah,
it's going to be one of those things, with those self-driving cars, as someone who does not live in Phoenix or San Francisco, I'm like, these things are never going to be here, when it's actually, dude, they're here.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's going to be that way with drones for me, and then everybody else is going to be like, what are you talking about? All right, let's move on. The Gen Z fueled chicken takeover continues. Kentucky Fried Chicken's new restaurant concept, Saucy, opens this week in Orlando, and it looks pretty different from the chain's usual locations. It has a modern hot pink concept and is centered around 11 dips and chicken tenders. It's the latest fast food concept store following Taco Bell's beverage-focused Live Más Cafe and McDonald's Cosmics. All right, next story, we're sticking to food. Poland is selling 1.1 thousand tons of its frozen butter reserves to curb soaring prices attributed to a milk shortage. While reserves don't always include food, some countries do maintain them as a way of storing key items to local diets. Canada, for example, has maple syrup reserves. Juliet, what kind of reserves did you think Poland was going to have? This was a completely surprising story to me.
Truly, no idea that Poland even had butter reserves or why. I feel like everything I know about Poland comes from reading and playing The Witcher. But I would now like to find out what reserves other countries have. In that same article, I read that China has pork reserves. I think in America, it's probably ranch dressing. I think we probably have vats of ranch dressing stored somewhere in the Midwest. But I want to know more. I want to know more about these food reserves.
No, totally agree. I think the ranch dressing could be the only one that America just needs endless amounts of and is obviously a staple here. And finally, the 2 NASA astronauts stuck on the International Space Station since June are facing yet another delay. Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams were due back after just 1 week over the summer, but then there were technical issues with the Boeing spacecraft, and that landed them on the International Space Station until what was supposed to be February. But now there's another delay in launching a return capsule to the International Space Station, which means they're going to likely be aborted until late March or April. Hope they're doing good up there. They are supposedly safe, so that's good. And they're astronauts, so who wouldn't want to be in space, I guess?
I don't know, for that long?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It is about literally 6 months longer than expected.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's your host, John Weigel. If you love the insights HubSpot brings to your podcast feed, then you're going to love Marketplace Tech. This daily podcast keeps you up to speed about the latest in tech news and what it all means for the economy. With stories about AI regulation, the fight against misinformation, and the latest in crypto, Marketplace Tech is essential listening to understand the business behind innovation. Listen to Marketplace Tech wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, let's move on to the main story of the day. It's December, and 'tis the season for drinking. Every year around this time, alcohol sales hit their highest peaks. But there's one particular variety of beer that's been peaking basically for the last several months, Guinness. Juliet, can you give me a little background on Guinness's sales compared to the industry as a whole?
Guinness is going wild, apparently. We're going to mostly focus on the UK. Obviously, Guinness is an Irish stout. Beer sales in the UK were down 0.5% between July and October across the entire UK. But Guinness was an outlier, and its sales actually rose over 23% in that same period. It is now the UK's top-selling beer by volume, and it's also growing in other places too. In the United States, it's the fastest-growing imported beer. So, when you think imports, that's obviously beers from other places, so beers from Ireland. People are loving it.
Yeah, it's really crazy. You were mentioning the UK sales numbers there. It's been down throughout the whole world when you think of like liquor. According to CNN, overall volumes of liquor fell around 3% for the first 7 months of this year. And you saw declines in big names like Jose Cuervo, Remy Cointreau, Anheuser-Busch. So this is really a case of Guinness going against the grain. Pun sort of intended there.
Yeah.
And any indication for why that is, Juliet?
So there's a couple things that are interesting about Guinness. For one, you've got these liquor sales decreasing. You've got people that are drinking less. And if you want to drink less, but you still want to drink a little bit, Guinness is actually a very easy to drink beer. It's low calorie, it's low ABV. It's only something like 4-point-something%. So you're not going to get drunk off of one Guinness. And some people think that it feels less gassy. That's actually because of the way that it's made. Most beers are carbonated with CO2. Guinness is carbonated with a nitrogen CO2 blend, so it's less bubbly. So when you drink it, you feel less bloated. It goes down a lot smoother. So, it's not a 12% pastry stout like some of the other stouts you'll find at a brewery.
It just seems like an antidote to that because, from like the late aughts and into the 2010s, these craft beers, pastry stouts, whatever, these kind of really heavy, kind of fancy craft beers were really in, especially among millennials. And now it just seems like, well, the trend is shifting.
Right. So it's easy drinking. And then on top of that, you've had Guinness become very popular in social media, these so-called ginfluencers promoting the stout on social media. We've seen famous people drinking them. Kim Kardashian was spotted with a pint. That does not matter to a lot of beer drinkers, but I think to some people, they're like, oh, well, I'll try it. They had an ad campaign featuring Jason Momoa. And also, there's a Guinness tradition called splitting the G that people have been doing on social media. So when you pour a pint of Guinness, it's not like other beers because it is this stout that's carbonated differently. So a lot of beers you would pour out of the tap. The glass would be at a 45-degree angle, and then you'd sort of level that off.
Right.
With a Guinness, it supposedly takes 120 seconds about to pour a perfect pint. I think it is 119.5 seconds to be precise. And a lot of times when you go to an Irish pub, you'll watch a bartender pour it and they'll do it over a spoon because what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that you get the perfect foamy head on the beer, but it's not all foam. So when you get the pint the way it's meant to be poured, it should have this nice foamy head, and then the rest of the glass should be that nice black stout. And the tradition is that your first sip, you're going to try to drink exactly enough beer so that the foam and the black line split the G on the pint glass, because typically you would be served Guinness in a branded pint glass that has the logo on it.
Right.
Right in the middle. So it's called splitting the G. And obviously, you can only do it on your first sip. So that's actually a lot of pints of Guinness if you're trying to perfect this. But that is a trend that has popped up on social media. So people are ordering it and then trying to do this thing with it.
And then when they fail, they order another and then another and then another. And so that's why
Presumably.
the sales have gone up, I guess.
And you can order another and another because it's only something like 4.5% ABV.
Yeah.
So,
That's basically less than a Bud Light.
yeah, you can have a couple.
Yeah. I've been to Ireland a couple of times, and I've always thought when I visited Ireland, the Guinness just tasted better there. And actually, people there would tell me that that's not a myth. Like it actually would taste better. It was fresher there.
Interesting.
And from what I've seen, Guinness has also gotten better at importing into the US. So it is fresher beer, I think, that people are drinking too and enjoying now.
Yeah. And I think Guinness is a very inoffensive beer. Like, if you're not a beer drinker and you have an IPA, it kind of tastes gross. Like, that is an acquired taste. But I think Guinness, whether you have it here or there, it doesn't have like this weird sort of pungency that some other beers do. And I think that may also explain, on top of these health benefits and the social media influx, why, interestingly, Guinness has become very popular with young women. Among young women, sales have increased 24%. And that's really remarkable for a beer that I think most commonly is associated with men, especially older men drinking it.
Yeah.
The older men in a little cap drinking their Guinness at a pub. But that's not who's drinking it. It's everybody now.
Yeah, for sure. It just has like the look. It's like you want some foam.
Yeah.
And it gives it just such a more kind of aesthetic quality, I think.
Right. And it's a different mouthfeel too, which, I think is appealing to people.
Yeah. So it has been a little bit tough, I think, for some people to keep up with the demand. Is there any indication of what Guinness or even pub owners are trying to do to make sure that supply stays high enough so everybody can get all the Guinness they want?
Yeah. So Diageo is, the company that manages and distributes Guinness. They've been putting an allocation limit on how many kegs pubs can get. Interestingly, the article I read noted that this was in England, Wales, and Scotland, but not Ireland. I would say pubs have been rationing how many pints customers can get, but it's not super serious. It's not like they're being very strict about it. There are a couple of pubs that have been like, hey, we're short on Guinness. We want you to buy 2 other drinks first, or hey, we're going to hand out cards or whatever. But I don't think they're being particularly serious. There has been some concern among pub owners that they're going to run out. Some pub owners have run out. And of course, it's the busiest time of the year for them. So it's a little disheartening to have people come in, want a Guinness, not be able to get one, leave and go to another pub. But a lot of times I think people will just order a different drink. As far as Diageo is concerned, they haven't said too much. They said they are maximizing their supply and working to efficiently distribute it among consumers. It seems like maybe they're just going to have to ramp things up if that's possible and make more Guinness, because it really seems like this is a trend that is sticking around.
Yeah, Guinness season. It's been lasting and it might continue to last. But that's going to do it for us today. Thank you everyone for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot podcast network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. So if you're not subscribed, please go get signed up at thehustle.co/email. And please follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. And we will see you tomorrow.